Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is transactions that conflict with themselves. Let's understand what this means and why it matters in your GRC implementation. So this is my GRC screen. I just logged into my system. So in GRC risk analysis, we usually identify risks when a user has access to two conflicting actions, like creating vendor and approving payments. But what if a single transaction code allows a user to perform both the conflicting actions? That's exactly we are discussing now. So here the issue is one single transaction code allows a user to perform both conflicting actions. Okay, so we are talking about that one now. Some SAP transactions are multifunctional. They allow users to perform different business tasks like posting vendor invoices and journal entries. So all within the same transaction. This create an SOD risk. Obviously, this will create an SOD risk. So for example, so let me open that note. So this is the note number 16000667. So this note is specifically talking about this one. Transactions that conflict with themselves. So here they have given so many of the transactions. They have highlighted all these risk IDs. So delivered with the global rule set. So they're talking about there are currently 18 transactions that conflict with themselves. So what are those 18 transactions? If we go to all these risks, then we can identify. So I'll open randomly some risk IDs. So I'll go to this particular risk ID B019. So let me log into GRC. So I will open that particular risk ID and we will see what are the function IDs inside of that one. So my NWBC is loading. Go to NWBC. Go to setup. Go to access risks. So we are talking about the default risk delivered by SAP, or you can say standard risk ID. So that risk ID is, what is that risk ID? It is B019. So you can see here. So that particular risk ID having two function IDs, BS13 and BS14. So what is there in BS13 and BS14? Let's open a function ID BS13. So in BS13, so I have so many of the connectors, so many of the systems connected to this particular GRC system. It's a central GRC. So I'm just selecting my particular connector group, SAP S4A LG, and I'm choosing my action. So this particular function having so many of the transaction codes, so many of the actions we can say. So in that, I'm just searching for a PFCG. So this particular function ID BS13 contains PFCG and BS14, and I'm opening BS14. So here also I'll filter out my particular system, SAP S4A LG, and action. I'm going with a PFCG. So in both the functions, I have a PFCG. So BS14, you can say BS14 having action PFCG and BS13 having the action PFCG. So in both the places, we have the same PFCG. You may think like permissions are different. Yes, there's a chances the permissions are different. So let's filter out in the permissions also. SAP S4A LG and the permission group. This will call as a permission group. So in this permission group, I will choose PFCG. And here you can see for the PFCG, we have so many of the SC24 related data. So for PFCG, we have so many of the authorization objects, default values and all. So I'm selecting the active ones. I don't mind about the inactive ones. So for the active one, for PFCG, I have two authorization objects, S underscore user underscore AGR, S underscore user underscore GRP. So this is in BS13. So let's open BS14. So in the BS14, let me filter out for this particular system, SAP S4A LG, and the permission group also I'm filtering out with the PFCG, and here I'm filtering out only for the active. So now you can see S underscore user underscore AGR. So BS13, BS14, we have two function IDs. In the both the function IDs, we have PFCG as the common action, but the permissions are different. So so in that case, you can control that particular action. You can control the PFCG by creating two functions with the different authorization objects. So by using PFCG, you can control that. PFCG having permissions are different. So can segregate it by security. So when this is possible, you can segregate the risk. You can segregate the risk. There is no risk. There is no issue. You can simply segregate the PFCG transaction code and create a risk. But there are some transaction codes. Let's talk about this risk F028. So F028. Let me open this F028 risk. Let me close this BS13 and BS14 and open the risk F028. F028. Okay. Mm, this is F028. Let me cross verify. Or it's a F428. No. Let me F star 28. So this particular risk F028 must be there. So I'm just checking. F star. Okay. So F0, let me scroll down. F028. Yes, you can see. I don't know. Maybe there is some filter. That's why it's not able to display that one. For F028, I can see four risks. Let's ID. We can see there are two function IDs. So let's open these two function ID. What's there inside of this function ID? So let's open GL01. So in the GL01, I can see. Let's filter out with our current group SAP S4A LG, and the action is F02. So I can see F02 is existing in GL01 function. And for AP02, and here also I can filter it out with my connector ID, and the action is F02, and go to permissions. So you can see that same transaction code existing in both the functions. If you go to permissions and filter out the system, again choose that system, and the permission group I'll choose F02 and filter it out only with the active. So here you can see in 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 the function ID AP02, you can see that action as F02 and the permission as F underscore BKPF underscore BUK activity 01 and 2. Okay. So similarly, I have opened another function ID GL01. Here also I'll filter it out with the permissions SAP S4A LG, and the permission group is F02, and I'm filtering only active ones. So here also you can see the same object f underscore bkpf buk, and the values also from 01 to 02. So in both the functions you can see the same values. So let me drag down for better visibility. So here, mm, maybe you can see now. Not yet. Okay, let me minimize this one also. Okay, this is for function gl01, and this is for function AP02. So here both different functions conflicting each other with the same action and the same permission. FBK, PF, BUK, ACTVT 012. Here also FBK, PF, BUK, ACTVT 012. So some SAP transactions are multifunctional. They allow users to perform different business tasks like posting vendors and invoices and journal entries, all within the same transaction. This create an SOD risk. Actually, we have two types of transactions. One is segregatable by security and another one is non-segregatable. When I'm talking about segregatable by security, that means you can restrict that access using the authorization objects. When I'm mentioning non-segregable, that means you cannot restrict. These cannot be restricted and require a mitigation control. So, so PFCG, in the first example, we can see the PFCG. In PFCG, we can see both the functions we have PFCG, but the authorization objects are different. So that's why That's where we can control that PFCG. But coming to this particular F02, we cannot control it. In both the places, it is conflicting with the same permissions. There is not something I have created just for the dummy purpose. This is released by SAP in the global rule set. So I'm talking about the global rule set, whatever they mentioned in the global rule set. So, so in both the places, same transaction and the same permissions, it is conflicting with themselves. So for transactions that can't be technically segregated, you need to design a mitigation control. So for all these things, you have to create a mitigation control P. So I just wanted to share this particular note information and what are the transaction codes that is conflicting with each other. So you can go through all this information mentioned in this note. So what are all the risk IDs that is having this kind of information. So all these things you can see it. If you want to access this particular SAP note, do let me know in the comment box so that I'll share this note with you. Okay. Thank you all. Bye.